Hey y'all, I'm Ali. Welcome to Little Hill Homestead. We recently mentioned that we found a recipe for a gingerbread Guinness cake, and I think we did it in our vanilla bean paste video. Anyways, we mentioned it and you guys were like, yeah, we don't care if it's March or April, it's supposed to be 85 degrees. We want to try this gingerbread cake. So here we are. We had St. Patrick's Day and we had some leftover Guinness. And so I started looking up recipes, what to do with this leftover Guinness. Usually I would make Guinness. We make a Guinness hot fudge. It's basically our Hershey's cocoa syrup, Hershey's syrup, that's the word for it, dupe, which we also have on the channel. And we just use Guinness instead of water. We do have a full video on it. But we had 2 jars already, and I was like, I don't need any more of it. So when I started looking it up, I found this recipe. It is not mine. I will link it below. It is by Confessions of a Baking Queen. I haven't tried it yet. But just reading what's in it, I'm like, yeah, let's go. So let's go. The first thing I've got is I have 11 ounces, which is one of the smaller Guinness bottles. We had a big bottle, and this is just what we had left after we made, Guinness cake, hello. So we're making another cake. Anyways, I have that going just to warm it up over here. She has to cook it down. I'm not gonna do all that. I guess I should say this is my adaptation of her recipe, so if it doesn't turn out, it's probably my fault, not hers. On this side of my stove, I am browning 1 3/4 cup of, nope. 1 3/4 cubes of butter. So she says it's 3/4 of a cup of butter, and we're gonna brown that and then let it come back to room temp or cool it down. So we'll use that for the frosting, which we'll make later today. But for now, we need to work on the cake at the same time. So it's been one of those days where we made some hummus this morning, which meant I needed to make some homemade tahini. We have oatmeal going on the counter over here. And then in the middle of this, I also started something else. And it's just, you know, in those days where you're like a ping pong ball bouncing all around the kitchen, that is today. So there you go. I'm just gonna give my butter a stir. I don't want it to burn. So what brown butter is, and we have a video on this too, because we have a video on everything, is you just cook it in a pan, you watch it, you do not want it to burn, but you want it to get little brown bits at the bottom, and then you remove it from the heat, and it gets really nutty and delicious. We actually are gonna be doing, if you've heard of Old Spaghetti Factory, they're mostly on the West Coast. I don't know if they're on the East Coast. They have what's called brown butter and Mizithra cheese. It's a pasta dish. It's phenomenal. We got some of the Mizithra from Trader Joe's actually a couple months ago. We need to use it up before it expires. So I'm gonna be showing you guys that probably next week, how to make it. It's super easy. And it's one of those that people are like, what is the recipe for this? What do you do this butter? And I'm like, you just literally brown it. It's amazing. But I'm just gonna let my butter kind of do its thing back here. It says don't walk away from it. And I agree, you don't wanna walk away from it, like go do laundry or something. But it's not as finicky as some people make it seem. Don't make it seem, everybody overcomplicates everything. I always say that, right? Don't overcomplicate it. It's butter in a pan. Like, keep an eye on it, but you know, don't let it become your whole life. So my Guinness is warming up. It is warm now. So all I'm gonna do, let me get a hot pad under here just in case. I don't wanna put warm liquid into a dish and then shock it on my stupid granite countertops. So I'm gonna put, this is our bottle of Guinness going into there. The good thing is it's not flat yet. I figured I kept it in a mason jar, just sealed with a lid for 10 days. I figured it'd be flat, and it's not. We're doing well. Okay, that's still going over there. To that, we are gonna add 4 ounces of butter. I melted it to give it a head start, but you don't have to apparently. I guess I should have read. I'm gonna grab this. So our butter is in, and then we are, to get it melting, it says to add your sugars and your molasses, I think is what it said. So, yeah, mix that in. Then we want, I have 3/4 a cup of brown sugar. Again, we have a video for that too. If you didn't know, we make our own brown sugar. 1/4 of a cup of white, just regular granulated sugar. I don't make that or grow it. It's just what it is. You're gonna get that stirring in, and the last thing you need is 1 cup of molasses. I have a lot of people ask me, we get the organic old-fashioned molasses. It's from Azure Standard. I get the 32-ounce glass jar. One, because you get to reuse the jar, but two, because it's the best price that I could find. It's easy for me to get. So our brown butter over here, by the way, it's gonna start foaming at the top. That's a good thing. It's cooking out all that stuff you don't want in there. I believe it's the liquid it's cooking out. Don't quote me. I just talk sometimes and I don't know what I'm saying. That's what happens when you're just talking to yourself out loud in a kitchen. So anyways, you just kind of want to keep an eye on this. I like to stir in the middle to kind of aerate it a little bit. Again, I have a video on this, so I don't need to go into too much detail on it, but it's just about there. It'll start to foam, and then it kind of like bubbles up, and then you'll start to see the little brown bits, then you remove it from your heat. Okay, molasses is going into our warm beer. We're just gonna stir that up. This is gonna apparently melt all those brown sugars and sugars into it. All right, I got brown bits on my browned butter, which is what I want. So I'm gonna remove it from the heat when I think it's just perfect. Once I start to see the little brown bits, I give it maybe like, I don't know, 15, 30 more seconds to kind of like really get good and delicious. All right. So once it hits this point, I'd say if you do it for more than like 30 seconds to a minute, it will burn, and that gives you a bitter taste. You don't want that. So once you see those little brown bits, just all over the bottom, you'll see the foam start to change too. Just remove it from the heat. All right. Now that's done, I can pay full attention to what I'm doing on my cake. So this is my sugar mix. I'm just mixing it all together. I, by the way, have my oven preheated at 350 degrees just because my oven literally takes like 30 minutes to preheat. Welcome to being an old oven. My love-hate relationship, like I always say, right? I'm gonna move this just to the side so it's out of my way. I'm gonna bring in a separate bowl. Let me grab a spoon. Let me grab a whisk. I like whisks to cook with. Okay, now that we have all that going, the next thing we need are 2 eggs. If you don't have room temperature eggs, what I do is I heat up a glass, like a measuring cup or something like that, that's glass, fill with hot water, let the sink kind of just run the hot water on it for a second. When that glass is warm, set your eggs down and put it upside down over it. You can use the same trick for eggs or just dunk these in some more water. You can also use it for butter. So I'm gonna do 2 eggs. Let me put those in my compost pile. Let me give those just a little whisk. To that, we are gonna add a tablespoon of, well, it says vanilla extract, but here's what I don't get. The whole point of this recipe, and we made this, was this vanilla bean paste needs to be in the frosting. And I was like, well, I wanted to make vanilla bean paste anyways, so when I saw this on the recipe, I thought, here we go. Well, why would you not use it in the cake if you've already made it for the frosting? So instead of the tablespoon of vanilla extract that you're supposed to put in, I'm gonna drop in a good teaspoon of our vanilla bean paste into the mix instead. I told you, I don't ever follow recipes. Even if it's got 5 stars and thousands of reviews, I'm like, I can make it better. Let's be real. I have problems, in case you didn't know. Not that I think I can make everything better, but I have, I don't know. I have a million different ways to solve a problem. That's what I always say. Like, even when I've figured something out, I'll continue to stew it in my head, just like I'm doing right now. I have a better way to do it. Let me rinse my finger off. Okay, so I'm using my vanilla bean paste. I just did a good heaping teaspoon of it. And then I'm gonna put that away because we're gonna be using that later in our frosting. Next thing we need is our flour. This seems a little out of order, but it's fine. I mean, here's my thing with cakes. At the end, it's all together anyway, so if you go a little out of order, you should be good. It's 2 2 2/3 cup of all-purpose flour. I feel like the egg mixture should have gone in there, but maybe I just didn't read it. That's probably what happened. Okay, there's our flour. Next thing we are gonna, let me just stir that up a little bit, just so that it doesn't like soak into the flour too much yet, you know? Just a little. Okay. Next thing we need is baking soda. That's baking powder. Baking soda, we need 1.5 teaspoons. Of course, my teaspoon is dirty, so we're gonna just eyeball it with a tablespoon and guesstimate. When you've cooked enough times in your life, you can kind of guesstimate without too much of an issue. I say that. I would love to, well, maybe I'll do that for myself, a video like, measure out a teaspoon in your hand, and then let's see if it actually is a teaspoon in the teaspoon, right? Then we need 1/2 teaspoon of baking powder. This one I'm gonna grab my 1/2 teaspoon for because as awesome as I am, apparently we're gonna use a 1/4 teaspoon. When I'm cooking all over the house in the morning, well, I'm not cooking all over the house. I'm only cooking in my kitchen. And when I have a lot going on though, I have just dishes kind of piled up. All right, again, we're gonna kind of mix that around just a little bit. Wouldn't be me if I didn't get it everywhere. I love that you guys have sent me like different things to help with the flour or spatulas to help scrape things out, and I still make a mess. It's just what's gonna happen. To that, we are going to add our spices. So we have a tablespoon of ground ginger. Remember, this is gingerbread, so don't be shocked when you read a tablespoon. This is our homemade ginger. We dehydrate ginger and we grind it up. And boom, you have ginger. It's delicious. It's a little bit stronger, like more true to a ginger flavor when you do that. We need a teaspoon of cinnamon. I really should find my other measuring spoon. It's fine. We'll just do that. That's a teaspoon. I'm telling you guys, we are super strict around here. Nutmeg. I use whole nutmeg things. I've told you guys this before. When I was a kid, we went to Massachusetts, I think. We lived in California, and we would take our RV on little family trips. And my mom bought this, I think, at Plymouth Rock. Is that in Massachusetts? You think I would know. So for my entire life, we had this, or maybe she got it in Maine. I don't remember, but somewhere. And you just grate whole nutmeg. So it's a teaspoon of nutmeg. I just feel like the fresh ground is so much stronger in flavor. I sneak it into a lot of things, a lot of pastas. I put nutmeg in, which is not a normal ingredient, but it does something special. We can get the whole nutmegs. We go to an Amish store in Ohio, like once every couple of years or once a year. We hit it, and they are so much cheaper if you have an Amish place near you or a Mennonite store. They're a whole lot cheaper than, by me, it's like you get 4 in a jar and it's like $7. We got an entire container of like 25, and they don't really go bad, so I just buy them when I get them. When I get them, I get them. Okay, I need 3/4 a cup of sour cream. I feel like this is definitely out of order. Oh well. Like I said, it all comes out in the wash, right? Hopefully. That's the last of my sour cream. So that was something else that I was doing this morning, is I have 2 batches of sour cream going in the corner so that we have more sour cream because I just used up the last of it. I didn't use the cloves. I skipped right over those. It's 1/2 teaspoon of cloves. Sometimes I feel like I need to move my ingredients to one side or another. I did the cinnamon, I did these things, just so I don't confuse myself. Okay, I'm gonna take our now cooled down a little bit Guinness mixture and pour it into our liquids. Let me get the sugar kind of stuck to the bottom a little bit. Okay. We're just gonna give it a good stir to get all those spices and all those things that I probably should have done in a different order incorporated. I love that you guys act, so, like sometimes you'll say, oh my gosh, I've learned so much from you, and you've changed my life. And I always laugh because I'm like, I'm just a chick in my kitchen trying to make it like everybody else. And when I do stuff like this, we just wing it. That's what happens. If it doesn't turn out, you know, such is life, right? It'll turn out. Like I said, everything mixes together in the end. Anyways, you guys are all so sweet. Wake up in the morning and you guys always leave the funnest comments. So anyways, I will have the little video to our vanilla bean paste because you guys had asked, well, we made that in our video. But you know what? Just shut up, Ali. Girlfriend doesn't even know what she's talking about no more. All right, this looks all incorporated. We are good. Okay, so I have a bundt cake, and it was my Grandma Mary's. I've had it since I was 18 years old, and it's one of the only things that I still have from her. She's passed away now, and I had the hardest time because I can't correctly cook a bundt cake anymore because it stuck so bad. It's old aluminum. Anyways, so I bit the bullet and I ordered a new bundt pan. This is the first time I'm gonna be trying it. I'm a little bitter about it. I'm not gonna lie, but with my luck, it'll be awesome. The other one I had to put so much like Crisco or oil or anything on it to get it to release that, and it still wouldn't release. So, you know, there's a time you have to just move on. I am gonna get my avocado oil and just give this a little spray. You guys see me use these all the time. They are awesome. We have two. I think I'm gonna get a third to put our veggie oil in. I'm not lying. If you do this correctly, you'd probably put like Crisco and flour and do that whole, you know what I'm talking about? Anyway, you can cook this, I'm gonna say, because this is what I do with my Guinness cake, which is very similar to this. You can, making sure it's all unstuck from the edges. You could do this in like a 9x13 sheet pan as well. It would probably cook maybe 10 minutes less than what this one will. And then you can still put the frosting on top and it'll be perfect. Okay, our batter is definitely like a Guinnessy gingerbready color. So, you know, something's right here. And all I'm gonna do is scrape that all in there. Whoops. And we're gonna put that, I have a tower of dishes at this point. There was a lot of dishes involved in this recipe, I'm not gonna lie. A lot. Some of that's from pre-measuring. When I'm filming, I try to pre-measure to shorten it, and now I've actually made it longer by talking about pre-measuring. Anyways, okay, let me get that in there. Anyways, this is gonna cook for... Yeah, I was supposed to put the eggs and vanilla into the Guinness mixture. There you go. Yeah, it's fine. It looks fine. Everything's fine. You cook it for 35 to 40, you bake it for 35 to 45 minutes until the cake bounces back when you press or touch the center or toothpick inserted comes out cleanly. Then we're gonna let it cook, cool. Then we're gonna let it cool on a wire rack for 10 minutes. Then flip it and reverse it. Then we're gonna make the frosting. So I'm gonna put this in the oven for now, and then I will bring you back when miraculously all of my dishes are done and my kitchen is back to being clean, and I've regrouped myself by drinking a Mountain Dew. We'll be right back. Okay, my cake just came out of the oven, and it did take 45 minutes for my cake to fully cook. But that could be an oven thing, so if your oven runs hot, do it a little bit less. But it's cooling on a cooling rack over here, the right way up, and then on 10 minutes, I'm gonna flip it over, and as it cools, it should release from my pan. So, I got a new toy. I was telling you guys, I have had a KitchenAid mixer since Shawn and I first got married. We got married when we were 18 years old. I'm on my second one. I still have my first one, but I've pretty much killed it. My second one, I just don't like it. And so I kept saying to you guys like over and over, I hate this mixer. And you guys kept telling me there's two brands that you need to look at. One is the Bosch one or the Nutrimill, which I don't even know if they make the Nutrimill Artisan, I think is what it's called. I don't know if they make it anymore because every time I looked it up, sold out everywhere or like unavailable. So I started looking probably a year ago, to be honest, on Facebook Marketplace and things like that for a used Bosch mixer. I ended up finding one, and as soon as I did, I jumped on it because they're like 500 bucks now, and I got it for 200 bucks. So, and it came with the cookie paddles and I don't even know, an extra dough thingy and none of the blenders or any of that. Like I don't need that, but anyways, keep an eye out on Facebook Marketplace. You never know what you're gonna find. So I have my whiskey looking paddles in here. If you have a KitchenAid mixer, or you need to do this with a hand mixer, you just need the metal, these looking doodads. So on your KitchenAid, you would use these, or on hand mixer, you would use those. they all get the same result in the end, you guys. Because we have a cooking channel and we do a lot of cooking and baking and making our own breads, I could justify spending 200 bucks on this bad boy because I already have used it a bunch. Anyways, it does have a stronger motor. The big thing I'm excited for, and then I'll stop talking, is to try it for our pasta, because our KitchenAid mixer couldn't keep up with our pasta recipe very well. So I'm excited for that. So our brown butter is gonna be the first thing that we're gonna put in here. On the recipe, it said to let it get like room temperature. We don't have time for that today. So I did put it in the fridge for about an hour, and it is cold. It's not hot anymore. And it's starting to set up, but it's still liquid. So I'm just gonna put that in here. There you go. This is real life. Like I said, if this doesn't turn out, it's not her fault. The lady's recipe that I'm using, it's totally mine. So, and while my cake was baking, I started a batch of yogurt because it's just that kind of day around here. I told you it's like a kitchen day. So we do typically, on Mondays, I do kitchen prep and I cut the vegetables for the week and I do a bunch of like yogurts and breads and different stuff. If you guys want to come along on I don't even know what I call it, a weekly kitchen restock? I don't know. If you want to see that, you let me know. Anyways, I'm going to whip this together for just a second to get that butter a little aerated. Got my directions here. So since my butter wasn't cold, I don't need to do it as long as the recipe said, so I'm hoping this works. I need half a teaspoon of salt. I'm gonna put that in. This is a teaspoon because I don't want to dirty as many dang dishes. It took me forever to get the dishes done. Shawn was sweet enough to come put them back away for me and dry them all off. I need 1 teaspoon of our vanilla bean paste. This is a little bit liquidy, but it's also quite thick, so it's an interesting concoction. We made it with vegetable grade glycerin. Like I said, I'll put the video to it in here. I just leave it on the counter like this, or actually I put mine in the cabinet next to my vanilla extract so that when I have recipes that call for vanilla extract, I remember to grab my vanilla bean paste instead of forgetting. You know, you like me, you make stuff and then you put it in a cabinet and then you forget you even made it and then you never use it, right? So I put it up there with the intent of remembering that I have it. The next thing I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna spin that real quick. Oh, it has a pulse button, who knew? I'm gonna add 3 tablespoons of whipping cream going in, and then 2.5 cups of icing. Icing flour? It's not icing flour, powdered sugar, y'all. This is our homemade. If you do not know how to make homemade powdered sugar, y'all, it's the easiest thing in the world. All you do is take regular old sugar and blend it in your blender. Some people say to add cornstarch. You don't need to. I don't find it does anything different. I'm gonna put my little lid on and I'm gonna just give this a little mix. I'm still learning this. I have no idea what I'm doing with it, but let me scrape that down a little bit from the sides. So this, they're calling a glaze versus a frosting. I traditionally do like frostings, but you do you, right? This will probably hit all the areas it needs to, but I don't know it yet, so yeah. Okay. So it says to whip this for 5 minutes. I'll show you what it looks like as I'm whipping it. But it says to whip it for 5 minutes so that whipping cream gets like puffy and beautiful. So let me show you what that looks like. Okay. I did it for about 4 minutes because this thing is a lot stronger than a KitchenAid mixer. And I felt like if I did it for too long, it was gonna like break the, you know what I mean? Like break the whipping cream, make it separate again. I don't know if that's a thing, but this is covered with butter. Sorry, it's super slippery. Let me show you the consistency that we ended up with. My eye. All right, so it ended up this beautiful frosting-y look. Let's do a sample. Should we sample it? We should, right? You don't want to put it on if it's not good. Okay. The brown butter is really good in there. You can taste the salt. That's a good little, it's not like traditionally I like cream cheese frostings. This is definitely not that. This is definitely a rich type of frosting, but it's quite tasty. So I'm gonna wait for my cake to cool, which, by the way, this is the first time using this pan. I will say it flipped right out of the pan and it had a tiny bit of sticking, but it flipped right out. So I guess it was time for Grandma's pan to go live somewhere else in my house. Maybe I'll come up with a different purpose for it, but I'm gonna get that soaking, and then as soon as my cake is cooled enough, I will show you how we frost it up. But yeah, this is pretty good looking frosting. I'm not sad about it. Like, it's pretty, right? Yeah. All right, let's go. Okay, so I let my cake mostly cool. I have an appointment I need to get to, so I'm trying to just jam through this. But I let it mostly cool. And then we keep this vintage cake plate. It's always just sitting on our hutch. Shawn, I would usually just do like plates and cover it with saran wrap and stuff. Shawn was like, no, I want a cake plate. So this was something that he wanted, and so that's, we got it. I had Shawn test our frosting. And he said, that doesn't taste like frosting. I said, well, it's a glaze. So technically it's not a frosting, even though it looks like a frosting. And he already said, well, I like your Guinness frosting better. So I'm interested to see in the end. He also said, I don't like gingerbread. And I was like, well, I know you don't like gingerbread, but your friend does who's staying here. So that's why we're having it. But so maybe we will have him try it later. We'll see. But he already said our Guinness frosting is better. So I will do a separate video with our Guinness cake and Guinness frosting another day. But our Guinness frosting has cream cheese in it. So, but I'm just going to kind of put this on here. Just kind of around. And then I have a offset, whatever this thing is called, spatula. I think it's called an offset spatula. I love to frost with those. I think it's the easiest way to kind of maneuver your frosting around. It's interesting they call this a glaze, because to me a glaze is like clear, like a donut glaze, or like, when you do like sweetbreads, like lemon bread or something like that, it's got glaze. To me, this doesn't look like nor act like a glaze, so we'll see. Whoops. Get the last of that off my spatula. Pick that up. I'm gonna rinse my fingers off before I get back into this. Okay, so for me, I don't like to frost all the way down. I like to leave it kind of exposed just a tiny bit so you see the cake. But I just kind of push this down into the middle because, that's the good stuff, right? And I kind of just take it down the sides. We don't need to get too fancy. This is a simple cake. It's not going to be somebody's wedding. It's not for a birthday. If it was, I would take more time on it. But I like the offset spatula. I got this one. Michael's used to do really good coupons. They don't anymore. When they did, it would be like 40 or 50% off one item. And I would get cake stuff or baking pans or things like that from Michael's when they did that. So if they start doing that again, maybe then we'll do something. But, oh, you know what I should show you guys? So I've talked about Shawn's sister, Crystal, Sissy, we call her Sissy, before. And we have a recipe of hers for Reese's peanut butter cupcakes with a peanut butter frosting, and you put a whole Reese's in the bottom of each of your cupcakes. Maybe I should ask if I can share it. Sissy, if you're watching, can I share that? Anyways, the peanut butter frosting is like off the hook, but okay, my cake was still a little bit warm, so this is melting a tiny bit, but it's okay. We're gonna be okay here. So I just like to make it kind of, I'm taking some of the middle out because I have a lot hidden in there. So I just kind of go around and, like I said, I don't take it all the way to the floor because then it just sticks to the plate. Not the floor of this. And that is it, you guys. There's our gingerbread cake. I tend to find spice cakes and stuff like that are better once they sit for a little bit. But we shall see, we shall see. Let me test it out for you though. Forcibly, I have to try it. It's very pretty though, right? Boom, there's our cake. This is technically gonna be my lunch today, so we're just fine. So the cake is nice and moist, it looks like. The frosting is like, it's a frosting. I don't know why they're calling it a glaze. It's fine. So there's our finished cake. Very pretty. You can still see a ton of frosting that got stuck behind in there. And let's give it a whirl. I know you don't like gingerbread, but do you want to try the gingerbread cake?
Of course I want to try.
It's definitely gingerbready. It tastes like a ginger snap.
I like ginger. I'd say yes. Yeah.
I know.
Personal preference for me.
Don't like ginger. Do you think it would be better with our cream cheese frosting instead?
Yes.
Yes. So.
All right, I'm off.
Bye, lover. He's off to work in the wood shop. I will show you another day our Guinness cake frosting. It's cream cheese and whipping cream and powdered sugar. It's delicious. This is great on this. It is definitely a very fall-y, spicy cake to me. The texture is good. It's nice and soft. I wouldn't change the cake. The cake is really good. But I agree with Shawn. The cream cheese frosting that we make is a little bit better. This is really good frosting though. We just are partial to cream cheese. So there you guys go. There is our, I'm just gonna keep stuff on my face. There is our gingerbread, what did they call it? Guinness gingerbread cake. And you can't taste the Guinness. It doesn't taste like beer bread or something. It adds a nutty, deep flavor to it. That's like really lovely with this actually. I like it. Okay, I've had a few more bites and here's my thoughts on the cake. It is very gingery. I don't know if that's because I use homemade ginger or because I need to take the ginger down. How much ginger did they had a tablespoon of ground ginger. I would take that to 2 teaspoons, honestly. And then the other thing I taste really strong is the molasses. It's like overwhelmingly strong. So I would take that to maybe half a cup or 3/4 of a cup. Those are my like off the cuff thoughts on the cake. But try it, let me know. It is very spicy and quite rich. So that's why I would take those down just a slight bit. But there you guys go. I hope you enjoyed our video and I'm off.